You have probably done a pantry challenge and you haven't even realized it. You know, when you're trying to like spread out a couple more days to make it until payday before going to the grocery store. Well, we're actually going to be talking about doing a pantry challenge that you're using up some of the items in your house and rotating them so your pantry items don't go stale and you save money on groceries. We're going to be documenting this today as we go through this pantry challenge and in the coming months, because Jessica has a hashtag challenge called ThreeRiversPantry Challenge that we are following. And if you want to see other homesteaders that are doing this pantry challenge during the winter time, make sure you follow that hashtag. If you're just meeting me, my name is 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐒 and this is the 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐒 Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries. And I went viral and have a best-selling book called The Zero Waste Produce Guide, where I teach you how to keep produce fresh safely for weeks. I even had a TED Talk on talking about how the average family is throwing away more than 40% of the things that they buy. And it's not just in the refrigerator or things in the freezer that get freezer burned, it's your pantry also. So things get shoved to the back of the pantry and we kind of forget about it. We buy extra things on sale and we don't use them, or we try something out and we didn't like it and the family didn't finish it. Or in our case, we have developed allergies and health concerns over the years that has made us change the way that we buy things, but we still had some of it left in the pantry. So I'm going to talk to you today about buying ingredients, especially for an allergy family or someone like me who is diabetic, and how that is kind of affected how I grocery shop over the years. So for years, we've actually kind of done a grocery challenge in January and February, and it was really because we overspent during the holidays and tried to use up everything we could during the beginning part of the year and waiting for that tax return to come so then we could replenish. So things have changed a lot in our family over the years, and I don't have to do that anymore. We have our spending under control and we have food security in our house. Now that we have our grocery spending under control, and we have for years, I concentrate on doing a pantry challenge during the winter time as a way to rotate the stock of things that I have in the pantry and make sure that I don't have anything that is going stale or needs to be used up. So not only have I been doing this for a long time, this was kind of the way I was raised too, on a large farm with my grandparents and my parents in the same homestead or farm. But during the winter time, my parents, who were loggers, they were home most of the time, and I didn't really realize that quiet time at home when grandma always had something cooking in the kitchen, it was actually when my parents weren't bringing in any income. So even though I was raised that we brought things in from the farm that we raised and we canned and we froze and all those kind of things, like as an adult looking back, I really realized that they had collected all those items during the harvest times to make sure that they had the food that we needed during the winter time when they weren't working. So some of those skills that I learned growing up with my grandma cooking all of the time was being able to substitute items and using up little bits of this and that to make recipes. So instead of to use recipes, my grandma never followed a recipe in a cookbook, and now I understand why, because she was just always being able to put meals together with the things that we had. Some of those skills of being able to substitute items in a recipe or what you're making is really important, and it's kind of a lost skill that has been forgotten. As we progress through 2025, I'm going to be posting more recipe videos and also showing how I substitute items not only for allergies, but for whatever I have on hand. So I've already showed you in other videos things inside my freezer, and when we go into the pantry, you're going to see that most of the items in my pantry are single ingredient items. They're allergy friendly items because I make a lot of things from scratch because we need to, because we're an allergy family. But also, I don't actually like to cook every single day. When I say that we eat mostly homemade things from scratch, I also do a lot of batch cooking or planning ahead that I can put things away in the freezer and be able to rotate out batch cooked meals. On average, I probably only cook dinner around 4 times a week, but we have dinner at home every night. And before we head into the pantry, I want to talk about 2 things, and that is budget and space. all of the items that we have purchased over the years that are in our pantry has followed the same grocery budget that we use today, and that is $135 per person per month. Currently, there's just the two of us here at the house. My husband and I, we're empty nesters, so our grocery budget for the month is $270 a month. But over the years, we have had our own kids here and been foster parents, and also having our grandma live here. Some of the items that were purchased with that grocery budget in the pantry were when we had a larger budget because there was more people home, and we haven't used them all up yet. So I just want to kind of clarify that before we go into the pantry and you see how much stuff is in there. So if you want to learn more about how I do our grocery budget or grocery hauls, we have a lot more videos about those things on this channel here. So make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell. So today is January 6th. We're right at the beginning of facing the new year. And I haven't been to the grocery store since December 5th when I did my last grocery shopping haul. And knowing that we were going to be out of town a lot for the holidays, I had planned our grocery shopping around that. And there's some items in my fridge I want to show you. So in my refrigerator, knowing that I was planning ahead, trying to push out not going to the grocery store until January, I'm even kind of pushing it out a little bit longer and not going until we absolutely need to. I have some fresh green items that are still in the refrigerator. Cilantro and parsley will last around 6 weeks in the refrigerator if you remember to put more water in the jar. And then I have some asparagus that we're going to use up any day now. Again, it's like over a month old that they've been in there. I still have some crunchy lettuce that is in the refrigerator. And then as far as fruit, I made sure that we had things that were going to last a long time and are in season. So I have some apples and Asian pears and some oranges and lemons. Now, we don't drink a lot of milk here in our house, but I did make sure to get the A2 milk when I was at Costco because it actually stays fresh for a really long time. So I bought it in December and it doesn't expire until February. So that will push us through the next couple weeks of not needing to go to the grocery store. And I was kind of laughing because the thing that kind of makes me a little leery of wanting to go to the grocery store is we are almost out of eggs and our chickens are not laying eggs right now. So eggs was kind of the first thing, like when we run out of the last 3 that we have, that might send me to want to go to the grocery store. And then I remembered that we had water glassed eggs in the cabinet. So if you have homegrown chicken eggs, you can make them water glassed. We have a video on that. You cannot do it with store-bought eggs. And also I have dehydrated eggs. So really there's no excuses that we need to run to the store right now. And then space for your pantry is something that comes up all the time. I'm going to be popping up some pictures of what this kitchen looked like before we did the remodel. We lived in our house for over 20 years with the kitchen being tiny like it was with no space. So for 20 years, the only pantry room I had in this house, because the house was full of kids, was I had one pantry cabinet that was this size. And then I had this weird, skinny, tall cabinet that was by our old back door. And then at one point we brought in a blue like China hutch that I would store some of our canned goods in. But really everything that was kitchen-wise, we kept in this area, which was brown and dark and had limited storage. And we do have one other white cabinet that we have in the living room that we have used for different storage needs over the years. So sometimes we had kept our crock pots and our Instapot in that, and other times we have put different pantry items in that cabinet, and sometimes it's just living room storage. So it's a great versatile piece that we can have in our living room and still utilize space in our house. So when Mike started the kitchen remodel and everything was torn down to the studs, we decided that we needed to make a temporary kitchen, and we actually did that in one of our bedrooms. We put up a large black industrial shelves, and that's where we have our microwave. I used a hot plate and our Instapot in the bedroom that wasn't being used as our kitchen for almost a year before we had appliances and a running sink again and a stove that actually worked in our kitchen. During our kitchen remodel with those black shelves was also the beginning of the pandemic, and being an allergy family, it made me quickly realize that I couldn't get the items that I needed for my allergy kid and it made me a little more nervous for the first time ever seeing shelves empty at the store. So some of those lessons that our grandparents taught us about, stocking some things away for later really came into play and hit me and it hit home during the pandemic that I wanted to have food security for our family. Now our family size is smaller now than when we originally started this. We have some larger glass jars that we're not using anymore, as I'm not needing to restock as many items as I did when we had the whole family at the house. What you don't see on videos normally is we are in this perfectly white kitchen and it looks beautiful. If you go back and look at older videos, you'll see that we were in progression of like tile projects or like the hood was missing on the top of the stove, different things that were happening as Mike was working nights and weekends to finish this kitchen remodel. But we have been in like a constant state of construction throughout the whole house for a while now. So on the weekends, he's working, there's tarps and stuff everywhere, and then we clean it all up and make it look nice for Mondays. So for the construction zone that is slowly going down the hallway and the trim is getting fixed on the new doors, and then we have a bathroom remodel that is going to be happening. So I have about 2 to 3 months if we stay on schedule until Mike needs to go into the pantry. We call it the gray room because there was actually a bed in there that when my kids were home for college, they would stay in that room. It was a bedroom at one time. We've taken the bed out of there recently, but the gray room is the pantry and it's a little overwhelming. And I've honestly been stressed out all weekend that I am going to show it to you, but I really want to show you what real life looks like. But what's going to happen in the gray room is everything in the next couple months is going to come out of that room. So he can put new flooring in there and he's going to take the popcorn ceilings down and it's going to get repainted. And then we're going to finish up a couple more projects that we have at the house and then we're going to move. So this year, for the first time, when I'm doing this pantry challenge, I'm actually trying to work through as many of the things as I can that we can downsize, and I'm not restocking until after we move. So restock for things that we need. For the first time, I'm not going to be refilling large jars of things. I'm going to try to keep our stock as low as possible. And things that I've home canned, I want to try to especially eat those up if they're older than a year or two, so we're not traveling with as many things. So this gray room, when we get in there, know that it is very overwhelming. There is a lot of stuff in there. It's completely organized, but a little crazy. And remember that I'm a homesteader and we have home preservation things. So there's a lot of canners, there's a lot of roasters, there's dehydrators, there's a lot of equipment that a normal household wouldn't have. And I'm a food blogger, so people are sending me appliances all of the time for me to check out. So there's a ton of different small appliances and different pots and pans sets companies have sent me over the years to check out and talk to you about. So there's more equipment in that room than we've ever had in our house for over 20 years. But in the process of downsizing this pantry as we are using the things, I did want to talk about the fact that that room is going to end up turning back into a bedroom so we can stage the house to sell. And then the cabinets in the kitchen are going to end up being our pantry again. So if you're looking at this room when we go to show it to you and think that you don't have space for a pantry like that, make sure that you're following the progression of this in the next couple months as we downsize the pantry and move everything back into the kitchen. So the things that are in there that we're going to try to be using up are not our long-term food storage for like emergency preparedness. And I have like things like wheat berries that have a shelf life of over 30 years to grind and make your own flour. Those don't need to be eaten right away. And so I'm not worried about that. I have some things that are dehydrated on the shelf that would last longer, but I know that I dehydrated them a couple years ago and they really should be recycled out. So as we go through some of the things that are on those shelves, I am kind of thinking about what we need to use up and what doesn't need to be used up and can be long-term food storage. Now, since that room is going to end up being a bedroom again, and I believe that all food storage should stay in your house, we have a closet downstairs that is a pain in the butt to get into because it's under the stairs. But that is where I'm going to put some of the long-term food storage that we have for an emergency, because I want to keep that with us as long as possible. And as we're progressing through this moving stage of our life, we're actually going to get a storage unit in the area that we're moving to, because we go over there once a month. We know exactly where we want to move to. And that way, as we're doing these monthly trips, we can start taking some of this equipment and other furniture pieces over and clearing out our house a little bit. All right, we are in the pantry, and this is just a bedroom in our house. And this is the closet in the bedroom, which we put these industrial shelves in. So this is not normally what you would have in a standard house, but I have a lot of equipment, and I'm gonna kind of go through some of the things that I have in here. But these standard shelves are from Home Depot. Sometimes they have them at Costco also. Mike has made wood trays that fit over the wire rack, so things fit on there a lot nicer. So that has been really handy. And if you get wire racks like these and want the wooden trays, then if you don't cut things, you don't have a handy husband, then Home Depot will cut them to size too for you. So it's kind of nice if you didn't know that they do that for free. But this is all of our extra kind of things. It's not, I lied. There's a whole bunch more over here. But I have like our roasters. I used to bake cakes, so I have like all kinds of cake baking things way up there at the top. I have a ton of KitchenAid attachments because I've had a KitchenAid for like 27 years now, so I have about all the attachments for it. My crock pots and roasters are all up here. Some random little things in these drawers. And then this is kind of our extra pots and pans that we don't store in the kitchen. So again, a lot of times companies are sending me pots and pans for me to check out, and I have a lot of them. But my cast irons are on this rack here in the back, which is really handy. I have a rice cooker, and this is a waffle maker, which is kind of cool. And then I have our Thanksgiving roaster. There's just a lot here. Now, I do cook a lot, so it's all good. But this is our dehydrator that's down here. So when I am going to use this, I do pull it out to the kitchen to use it. And then down here is a lot of the canning supplies. So my water bath canner and the All-American canner are down there. And then down here at the very bottom is some of my 5-gallon buckets that have things like rice and beans in them for long-term pantry items. Those are in Mylar bags inside of those plastic buckets, and those are meant for long-term emergency storage. So those are some of the items that I'm going to be moving downstairs to a closet. And then these are the glass jars that I was talking about, that as they start getting empty, I'm not restocking this much of a quantity because our family isn't as big as it used to be. So when we use up this rice, or the rice ends up going into one of the plastic galvanized buckets with a Mylar bag, these are like long-term storage items. There's white rice, which is long-term storage. Brown rice only stays fresh for about 18 months to 2 years, so it's not something that would go into long-term storage. And then I have wheat berries to grind my own flour. So some of those other jars are wheat berries down there. And then I have my Instapot up here. I have some random stuff on the shelf because I just moved some food items over to where the food is, and I will show you that in a few minutes. And then up here at the very top, I can't reach these unless I use a step stool, but up here has some more of my baking kind of items. And these are little totes that actually like bend down, and then I can get the stuff out, and then somebody else has to close it back up because I can't reach it. But that way we're able to use this top shelf with this shorter access right here. So anyways, this is kind of this closet. I normally close it off and nobody sees. And then down here at the bottom, I have a ton of dish towels because I swear I touch one once and then I throw it to the wash. So I owned a housekeeping company for a long time, and you just didn't use a towel a second time. And so I'm kind of that same way. So whenever I'm doing something in the kitchen, it just goes to the laundry right after, and I'm just constantly washing switching a load of towels every couple days. So that's me. I'm a little OCD. It's okay. So I do have a ton of different towels here that are down here. And then I have some of our storage bags. That's kind of this section of the pantry. All right, this is another crazy corner of this bedroom. This is a large white shelf that Mike hates because it is so heavy. I am kind of leaving it up to whether or not we're going to keep this when we move or if we will let it go. But it matches the one with doors on it that I have in my living room. So I'm not ready to give up that one yet for sure. So I've been keeping this one. Anyways, here we have, I did realize that I do have some food over here. Normally there's not food on this side, but there is some quinoa and there's some rolled oats. This is why I'll never put labels on things again. So anyways, normally I will just write on something with a Sharpie now because the labels hardly ever have what's really in there. But there's Rice Krispies in there. We have some leftover marshmallows from s'mores that we can make some Rice Krispie treats. And then I keep like the extra appliances that we're using over here. So our blender is here. We have like a food processor. This is a whole bunch of collab things that people have sent me. So this is all ceramic dishware. And then I have some roasters down here, Dutch ovens. And then some of my freeze-dried fruit is over here. There's some canned meat behind here also that has a really long shelf life. So this isn't canned meat that we are actually eating. This is emergency prep canned meat. And then down here at the bottom, it was Grandma's ice cream maker is down there. And then I have another mixer down there at the bottom. We have some of our tubs that have the ReadyWise freeze-dried meals in them and different items. So this is like 25 to 30 year shelf life and it is super light, which is nice in an emergency. If you need to leave the house really quickly, you can have everything all put together. Anyways, we are going to leave these handy, but they are part of our long-term storage. Okay, this has our china cabinet up against this wall. When we made the decision to have the kitchen remodeled, we lost a wall that it used to be up in the living room, dividing the living room to the kitchen. So the only wall in the entire house that this china cabinet could go to was in this room. And that's what kind of started everything of deciding to turn this into the pantry while we were waiting to move. So the china cabinet is here. This is one piece of furniture that I will never get rid of because it is from the farmhouse that I grew up in. So I grew up in a 5th generational farmhouse, and this is one of those pieces that have been in my life forever. And then we have like a random desk that's here, and there's a chair, and there's another little table. It's all just random in here because this ends up being the dropping ground for everything until we're trying to figure out where it goes. And I have some of my wedding china in here. Some of the other china I've already boxed up over the years as we've rotated through some things in life, but we have all of our spices are in this cabinet up here. And I love being able to store the longer term spices in here. When you open up this cabinet, if you're from the Seattle area and have ever been to the Pike's Place Market and that spice shop that's there, when you walk in, it just smells amazing. That is what this smells like now from having these spices in this cabinet for years. So this is the china cabinet that will for sure move with us. This shelf right here is actually the same as the tall shelves that are in the rest of the room, but it has only half of the section here. And I kind of hid the other sections down underneath this so I'd have them all together. But we put all of the shelves specifically at the correct height so I could get the different size jars. So I can put pint-sized jars on these two racks. Down lower, I can do quart-sized jars, and at the bottom, I can do half-gallon jars. Now, normally, these would be mostly filled with home canned items, but I haven't been canning as much lately, knowing that we are planning on moving soon. All right, this shelf here holds a lot of my glass jars. I know I have a lot of them. Normally, the goal is to not have very many empty jars, and I normally have all of these filled with home canned items. But this shelf is the same as the ones that are in the rest of the room, but we made it shorter, and we put all of the shelves all together instead of having them wider apart. Okay, this is the OG shelf. So when we originally bought these, it was because we were in the middle of a kitchen remodel and I didn't have a kitchen for like over 9 months. So we set this up in here and this was my entire kitchen. We used to have the plates and stuff up here on the shelf. I had a hot plate here and my Instapot, and then this is where our microwave lives. So we have room for it on the kitchen counter, but I've kept it in here because why put it on the kitchen counter if I didn't have to? But Mike had big plans for these shelves, thinking that when we got done using these, he was going to use them in the garage or maybe someday a barn or something, but I have confiscated them and will use them forever, most likely. I love that they have over 1,000-pound weight limit. So that is why we chose metal shelves instead of doing like wooden bookcases. So this was our entire kitchen for like 9 months to a year, was just using these shelves. And then as the pandemic happened, I started bringing in more food security in the house. And at one point, all of these jars on these shelves were filled. And now we're kind of being empty nesters, kind of emptying through things and using them up and not restocking as much as we used to. But there's things like up here on the very top shelf is a lot of the home canned items that I have made. And some of these will travel easily, like the jam. I just made them last year, so we don't need to eat up a whole bunch of jam. But there's other items up there that I made maybe 2 or 3 years ago that we really should try to eat up this winter. So there's some of the vegetables and the salsa that I want to make sure that we're rotating in through our meal plan a little bit more. And there's some baked beans up there that I honestly has been my most disappointing canning project ever. And so they just didn't turn out all the way cooked for this batch of baked beans. So every time I go to use them, I actually have to put them on the stove and have them cook for like another hour or so. So those have been up there a little bit longer because I haven't been wanting to use them. So this is a perfect example of trying to use up some of those things that you don't necessarily want to grab all the time. So we'll be using those up, but those jams and stuff will get boxed up when it's time for us to go. And I will make sure when I do box them up that we're putting cardboard in between the layers so they are more cushioned when we go to move. And if you notice, none of the home canned items that I've canned, I keep the rings on. So when you have the rings on a jar, it can cause a false seal. We have a whole nother video for that if you have questions about it, but I think the best practice when you're canning is to remove that ring afterwards. So this shelf up here has a lot of dehydrated items. These are just some peppers that I have dehydrated. These are things that I actually need to use up. So I don't want to move these with us, and I need to start incorporating them more into our meals again. And they have been in here for around 3 to 5 years, depending on which jar I grab. So it's kind of time to start refreshing those items. And when we get to our new place, we will be able to restock these kind of things. But this is definitely something that I want to use up and work through our meal plan through these winter months. These are apple slices that we love that are dehydrated, but this is another thing that we are just not eating. And this one is actually one of the things that I'm okay with getting rid of. So these are both apple slices. This one I did with cinnamon, which I normally like with cinnamon, but it was right when I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I did this with monk fruit, and they are way too sweet. Like when you go to eat one, it feels like it just goes to all your teeth. So anyways, this is something that has been in the pantry for a couple years. They're still crunchy, they're still good, but there's no reason to eat them. And I'm just going to feel okay with tossing these. These almonds are another good one that is kind of a reminder that it's okay if you need to give something away or toss. I have realized since we had bought these and I had started using more almond flour that I'm actually allergic to almonds. So there's no reason why I need to be consuming almonds if I'm allergic to them. So again, this is something that I've bought, and maybe somebody in our neighborhood would like to use them. They are still fresh and all those things, but I don't necessarily need to consume those. I think we showed it already. I have some wheat berries in these large 2.5 gallon jars, and I love how pretty they are. But if you are looking for food storage for a long time, so even though this is a metal lid and it has like a little bit of a gasket here, it's not completely airtight. So these are items that I store in these larger jars. Were more for decoration. We still use them, but I was trying to rotate through these things quicker because they're not going to stay fresh as long. Now, these jars do have a metal lid, which is great. And then the 1/2 gallon ball jars have a metal lid. So this is completely airtight, and you can vacuum seal this after you put it on. Also, if you're storing pantry items, we have a whole video on learning how to do this and how I store things in glass. All right, down here on these lower shelves, I have our single ingredients items like lentils and pasta. There's rice. And then I have the baking items that are over here on the other side. And then we have our canned items on these organizers. We're actually going to be filming another video talking about these canning organizers that will be coming up next. So if you like seeing more videos of kind of the messier side of our lives and kind of knowing what this journey is that we're going on, let me know, because this actually took a lot of deep breaths, anxiety, all of the things to show you that things aren't always perfect. So just so you know, this room is normally really dark, and we had to bring in extra lighting to even be able to show in here. So there is like one overhead light that makes it dark in here, but we have curtains and blinds on the window, and then that way it's normally closed off and dark like a pantry. So if you're worried about my, items on the shelf and glass, it is normally dark in this room. So make sure that you like and subscribe. Tell me if you want to see more of these messy areas of our lives, or we will just move right back to the kitchen. Filming here in the pantry is something that I had to talk myself into. I am not joking. It has been overwhelming for a couple days, even considering bringing the camera in here. So I just hope that you enjoy seeing kind of this unorganized, messier part of my life. But it actually is super organized. There's just a lot of stuff in here. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you would like to learn more about us packing and moving and remodeling and all of those kind of things, make sure that you comment that so we know what kind of videos that you would like us to be making. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out all the other videos that we have to teach you how to save money on groceries.